Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Global Career Forum, the international online recruiting event organized for the MBA students from top business schools. Today we have an online meeting with Metals Hub, and we have a pleasure to welcome for this live session our main speaker, Frank Yackel, who is the co-founder and managing director at Metals Hub. As this is a live Q&A session, I would like to invite all participants to ask your questions in the Q&A panel, and we will convey your questions to Frank. Frank, warm welcome.
Thanks a lot for the introduction, Jana. Yeah, it's a pleasure being able to present today here. And I think to start everything off in this session is maybe to explain a bit what are we doing actually, and who's Metals Hub. I mean, we're not a global company. We're not a global corporation that has 100,000 employees. In fact, we're a proper startup, but in a very traditional industry, which isn't actually used to this kind of digitalization and the efforts that we're doing. So we are revolutionizing very much a very old-fashioned, very traditional industry, which is the metals and mining industry. So, and what you see here is already on the very first picture is some of the customers or users that we're dealing with. So what is Metals Hub effectively? Metals Hub is a platform for metals, a marketplace. So you can think about it a bit like Amazon. And the metals that we're talking about is not something that is coming out of a steel shop, etc., but it's actually raw materials. Raw materials such as nickel, chrome, etc., are very much traded on Metals Hub. You might think now, what's new about this? There must be some metal exchanges already out there. Well, there aren't. The metals that we are talking about are really those that don't have an exchange, that are not traded over a stock exchange or a metal exchange, but are actually traded over the counter. And what we're providing is very much an OTC platform that helps companies, global companies, to actually buy and sell those metals. So they come really from a mine side, they get beneficiated there, and they end up, they come in all different shapes and combinations. And as I said, we're talking about metals such as titanium, vanadium, chrome, manganese, molybdenum, so everything that you most likely haven't heard of a lot of times in your life. But those are the key things that we're talking about. And it's a huge global market. We're talking about a market size of 150, 200 billion plus globally. And that's only the consumed metals. If you think about the trading, the churn rate is, and the turnover rate is sometimes 3-4 times. So we're talking really about a $500 billion market that is digitalized by Metals Hub now these days. And they very much so who are the buyers on the platform? Those are really global steel companies, smaller foundries, medium-sized foundries that are buying those metals via Metals Hub. What we are very much, as I said, a platform. Think of it like a bit like Amazon. So we've got sellers on the one side, global companies like Anglo American, Glencore, Traxys, etc. And we've got buyers on the companies such as Outokumpu, Saarstahl, Gerdau, that are using this platform for their purchases. We provide additional services around this, things like KYC checks, logistics, credit insurance, trade finance, and we extract, of course, from the platform pricing information. So eventually, Metals Hub is actually a company that can also provide indices, and with that, giving companies the opportunity to hedge actually the prices of metals that weren't hedgeable beforehand. And that's very much as an introduction to Metals Hub. This is what we're doing. Maybe some other things on top of that. We've been only founded 2 years ago, December 2016. And we started literally with a blank sheet of paper, 2 people, 2 founders, of which I'm one of them. By now we are 15 people. We're expanding into Asia, we're expanding into North America, we're expanding into Eastern Europe. and we've got over 300 companies already being registered and using Metals Hub. It is literally a global business, and our main our hub is Germany, Düsseldorf at the moment. But as I said, we've got already our first employee sitting in Singapore. We've got an employee sitting in Italy, and we're looking at expanding into the US later this year, and also India. So very much this is where we want to be. So we're looking for good people, ambitious people who like the spirit of working for a startup and entrepreneurial company rather than for a global corporate. And maybe to myself, as Dana said, I'm one of the founders of Metals Hub. We're two of them. Myself, I've got a background in engineering. I'm a metallurgist by background, but my other founder, he comes from business MBA background, and we are looking for people with diverse backgrounds, with different experiences, because I think everyone who brings a different kind of setup, different kind of experience to the table is more than welcome in Metals Hub, simply because we benefit from those diverse backgrounds and experiences to digitalize a market that is currently very analog. That was, in a very, very brief way, what I wanted to say. And I think we should just move over to whoever has some questions, whoever is interested in what we're doing, asking a bit more specific questions. I'm very happy to answer all of them.
Perfect. A brief introduction, but interesting one, and many questions coming in. So first off, you mentioned that you have already some people sitting in Singapore. You're based in Germany. You're planning to have some positions in the States. What about biggest current challenges, or maybe where you see company evolving in next 5 to 10 years?
Right. So I think one of the key things that we all need to see is, I think there's no industry worldwide that is not going through a digital transformation. The problem, I think, with all these old and traditional industries, such as mining, metals, is that we have, first of all, an age structure in those companies where you sometimes still have people in a position there who are not very open and not very keen to change ways of buying or ways of selling. So this is something that we need to overcome, and we need to really demonstrate to our users and potential users the benefits of the digital transformation. Eventually, time is playing for us here very clearly, because with every year that passes, new people, younger people who grew up with pretty much digital media and mobile phones, cell phones, the internet, they are coming now into positions where they make decisions, and that's of course a big advantage for us. But I think this is clearly our biggest challenge. We need to actually conquer an industry here which is not so tech-affine as other industries yet.
Perfect, thank you. You mentioned venture capital in your job description. Can you share more how much you have raised and when you expect the next round?
Yeah, very good question. So we have gone through 2 rounds. So we started the entire business with a business angel round, in which we raised 1 million, very much with a blank sheet of paper. And we've just gone about half a year ago, 5 months ago, through our seed round where we raised 3 million euros, which is probably going to get us to the next 1.5 to 2 years. We have one of the largest German or European venture capital companies backing us, which is Point 9, and we've got an American Brazilian venture fund as well, which is Chromo Investments. Those are 2 lead investors actually for the seed round. We expect, as I said, in 1.5 years probably to go for the next round.
Thank you. You quickly mentioned different backgrounds of both founders, so of you and your co-founder, and we're interested to learn more. Where does the inspiration come from?
Both Sebastian and myself, we used to work for a large global mining company, Anglo-American, in London for the last couple of years, and Sebastian and myself were actually sitting next to each other. He was the global head of marketing and sales for the nickel business, and I was the global head of marketing and sales for the ferroalloys business. And one of the challenges that we always had was, as a large global miner, we wanted to do more direct business with the consumers. But it was very difficult to reach out to them. There are more than 50,000 potential consumers for those products. And as a consequence, we thought, hey, this is really inefficient. Why do we do still everything here via email, telephone, etc., and have to then record it into some kind of contract tools, etc.? And that's where the idea came from. And then I have to be honest, we initially tried to implement that as part of our jobs in Anglo-American. But we saw a company of 140,000, even if you have an executive position there, it is very difficult to implement such innovative ideas. So we quit our well-paid jobs in order to do it by ourselves.
Thank you. So currently with Metals Hub, you are looking to recruit. You have open positions for interns as well as full-time opportunities. They are located in Germany for a full-time position. You did mention to us before that the next step of the full-time position is relocation also to the States. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the profiles that you're looking for internships as well as full-time opportunities.
Yeah. So let's maybe start on the internships. We offer internships from 3 months onwards. So we have at any given point in time between 3 and 4 interns always working here at Metals Hub with a broad spectrum of responsibilities. I think the great thing about working for a small startup is even as an intern, you are from day one doing a fun kind of everything that is required. You have full responsibility for the areas that you cover, and it can be from customer onboarding, sales, but also product development, where we're looking into analyzing new markets, new products, new methods that we should actually include into our platform. For the interns, I think it's most important that they are working close to the heart of Metals Hub. That's why the intern positions are in Düsseldorf at this point in time. And as I said, up from 3 months onwards, we're open for any kind of applications, be having a technical background before the MBA or having an economics background. Everything is welcome. We are looking for the right people rather than what you exactly studied beforehand. I think if you are ambitious, if you want to get things done, and if you're willing to work in a kind of a startup environment, then you're more than welcome to send us an application. So that's on the intern side. On the full-time roles, we have a full-scale IT development team already in place. So this is not something that we're particularly looking for where we have open positions. What we're looking at is, of course, business development. Business development in different regions. And when we're talking about business development, it's really about getting in touch with potential users of Metals Hub, demonstrating them the tool, showing them how it works, and convincing them that this is the right step forward for them to move into a more digital world of buying and selling those metals. And the most important thing for us there is that you are open-minded about business development, that you are able to deal with people, do sales, do business development, and from that perspective, that you are somebody who just takes things into your own hands and says, okay, I want to get in touch with those people, I want to visit this conference, I make some appointments with those companies, and you get things started for us here.
Thank you. One thing that is important to the students, the future applicants for the roles in the States are the work permits, especially for international students. And so the question here obviously is if you offer any help, if you would be able to sponsor a work permit for the position in the States.
To be honest, I mean, this is a question that we're currently investigating. If it was easy to establish something like that in the US, we would be there already. But we are at the moment, especially with our venture capital partner in the US, we're looking into how do we best establish ourselves in the US. And surely we can support, we can help. How in detail we could do that is probably something that I couldn't answer at this point in time. I think we are in 3 months' time, probably further down the road, and I could answer that question.
Thank you. You mentioned before the right people, so looking for the right fit. Could you elaborate a little bit more on the type of personality that you're looking for?
Personality-wise, I think somebody who is, first of all, fits into the team. And it's always a difficult thing to describe that. I think what we are a team with people from very diverse backgrounds. So you need to be open and tolerant, but I think that's a given for almost any kind of MBA student because you're always working there in a very diverse environment. And number two, I think you should be somebody who can make contact to existing users, but also new users quite easily. I think that's also something for quite clear for a business development person, which means you shouldn't be shy picking up the phone and calling somebody, even if you with a bit of preparation, but even if you haven't spoken to that person beforehand. So that's clearly something that is important for us. Number three is we use different tools to manage our business development, and I think this is also important for us that somebody who goes out to customers and speaks to them also uses the tools that we use in order to be successful. So you need to bring some kind of technical, I wouldn't say finesse, but being open-minded about using all sorts of tools to manage pretty much your business development role. You should be open-minded to use those tools without any problem.
Mentioning this, an interesting question coming in, because you were mentioning an open profile, so presuming that you value entrepreneurial profile, and if so, do you offer share options in your package?
Well, it depends on the candidate, and it depends on the role. To be honest, yes, we do that. I mean, I think it's quite normal for a startup, but as I said, I think it really depends on the role. It depends on the candidate, and we are open for almost anything there.
Perfect. So again, attendees, just a quick reminder, any questions you have, drop them in the Q&A panel or in the chat box, and we can convey them to Frank. Perhaps another thing, after applying to the position, what would be then the recruitment process, the interview process? What can people expect once they submit an application for either internship or a full-time opportunity?
Yeah. So the first initial interview is always via Skype or something similar, WebEx. We use a peer-in or some other tools, and you'd have very much 2 interviews minimum. to see how, depending of course on for a full-time position, it would be also interviews then with some of our key investors potentially. For the interns, it's 2 interviews, and then very much we can make a decision within 1 hour. This is the benefit of being in a startup. We are very agile, we are very quick at decision making, and sometimes it might not be working out in the next 2 or 3 months. It might be only working out in the midterm future. But we can always discuss, debate, and we're very flexible when it comes to starting dates and any kind of options that candidates would like to see.
Thank you. When we talk about performance on the job, especially for the full-time position, what are then the performance expectations for this position over the first, say, 12 months?
Yeah, very clearly. It's transactions and new customers on the platform. That's what we expect for those roles. We have a lot of contacts already that are in our pipeline, where we have either those are warm leads or hot leads even, and it's really about how many conversions do you have and what kind of transaction volume they do through the platform. It's not unusual to expect that probably, I mean, we know that from experience, a sales role can probably generate about $30–40 million of transaction volume through the platform, through the marketplace, in the first year already.
Perfect, thank you. I know that your role is senior, you are the managing director, but still, how does your typical day look like?
Oh, well, my typical day, we still, even as managing directors, we haven't delegated everything to somebody else. I still have some key accounts that I'm taking, that I'm visiting, that I'm talking to. So those are the very first customers that we probably had on board. It's a lot about discussing with the management team in MetelsHub what are the next steps, for instance, in terms of platform development. I'm working very closely here with the IT department to see what are the next features also that we want to implement, where do we want to go. And it's also working with the operations people to see what can we do to improve our services, where do we stand, do we have any kind of firefighting that needs to be done. From my perspective and also Sebastian's perspective, of course, what we do is we are together with the management team in MetelsHub defining the strategy. I think that's clear.
Thank you. A question from the audience is from Isadora. She's asking, in the job description for business development, it says experience with B2B sales, and how important this previous experience is coming from top business school and looking for a career shift.
Look, as I said, I think experience is valuable, but it's not everything. And to be honest, whether you've done also internal roles like consulting, or whether you have been in change management roles in a business, it's always a bit of sales, whether you do some kind of, whether you need to convince somebody internally in a company, or whether you need to convince customers to use your product. So sales is always an important component. First of all, this is, I do think that anyone with job experience has made that experience in terms of sales. I think if you are a person that is naturally or feels naturally towards going into such a role, you will probably see that you have 1 or 2 positions in your CV where you have made this experience already. So you don't need very specific B2B platform sales experience. What you need to know is of course, how does it work? How do I sell? How do I sell a product?
Thank you. When we talk about the team, Could you spend a few moments telling us a little bit more about the team that the new basically associates, people you're looking to recruit for, they would be working with, not just in terms of personality, the fit, but also perhaps in terms of how many people are there today in sales, business development, how many in tech development?
Yeah. Okay. So we have nowadays we are or from 1st of March onwards we are 5 developers. So this is our IT team. We have of course 2 managing directors. In business development we're going to be 4 people who are covering at the moment Italy or Southern Europe. We have somebody covering Western Europe, like Spain, etc. We have somebody covering Germany, and we've got somebody covering the Asian market at this point in time from Singapore. And so we are already expanding with somebody who is covering the Eastern European market and CIS, the Commonwealth of Independent States. So that's 4 to 6 people in BD, 6 by 1st of June, most likely. And we're looking then on the BD side to expand that by another 2, 1 with a focus on China, 1 with a focus on the US. Never having said that, if there is somebody who brings a certain skill set and a certain convinces us, we can even create positions for that person. So that's not a problem. We've got 2 people working in ops, sales operations, which means all transport, logistics, onboarding. And we have at any given point in time 4 to 5 interns at the moment. So altogether we are at the moment 17 to 18 people.
Excellent. And for these new positions that you're looking to hire, internship and full time, who will be those new people? Who will they work most closely with? To who will they directly report to?
Yeah. So we've split our roles very much in at the moment between Sebastian, my co-founder, and myself. That I'm working more on the operational side. So which means I'm working together very strongly with the IT development team, with our operations team, and marketing and sales is with Sebastian, and he's the one that is covering the marketing and sales side on our side. But I mean, ultimately, we're still a very small company, so we're not very hierarchical when it comes to who are you working with, etc. And the most important thing is that we keep ourselves informed about what's going on, literally, because both Sebastian and myself come, of course, from that industry. We both have, by the way, also a consulting background, having both worked for Boston Consulting Group a number of years. So I think for us, the most important thing is that we communicate openly in the company, despite having this kind of light split between the tasks there.
Can I also ask, what is your favorite part about working at Metals Hub?
I think the great thing is, I mean, I think I've seen quite a bit in my career. So first of all, as I said, I'm coming from an engineering background. I've worked as an engineer in research and development, and I've also worked for a large corporate like Anglo American, but also for Boston Consulting Group. I think the great thing about working for Metals Hub and starting Metals Hub is that you see it growing. It's like a little plant. If you water it on a regular basis and you're kind of taking care of it, you see it growing. This is something that wherever you are, whether you are working for a large management consulting company, be it McKinsey, be it Boston Consulting Group, or you're working for one of the large kind of global corporates, you don't really see the impact of your own work. And I think this is very, very satisfying.
Thank you. Perhaps any last advice, recommendations to the audience, to the applicants for your openings?
I think, as I said, if you haven't been working in a startup environment before, you should definitely try it out. I think it's very rewarding, and you also get a good feeling for, is this something for me or not? I think that's also quite important. And number two is, I think just be yourself. Ask yourself, is this, first of all, an industry that maybe, even though it's maybe not, it wasn't on your screen beforehand, is that something that could be interesting for me? And if yes, do you want to actually be part of a company that is disrupting very much a very old-fashioned, very traditional industry?
Thank you very much, Frank, for taking the time to be with us here today. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here. And just one last thing, language internally, don't be afraid, even though we're a German company, our day-to-day language here is English, because I think most people here in our company actually speak rather English than they speak German.
Perfect. Good message. Thank you so much again. And as promised, the recording of the session will be on the event website later today. Thank you again.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, everyone, for attending.